Hello kids, hope you must be doing well and completing your work as usual in time and must be enjoying the virtual learning also, right? We have already started with this lesson and we have almost completed 2 units of this lesson. Fine. And today we are going to start with the third unit, that is the sexual reproduction. Fine. What is sexual reproduction? It is a mode of reproduction involving the fusion of haploid female gamete and haploid male gamete, that is, egg cell and sperm cells. It is the most common method in many eukaryotes like animals, flowering plants, and some fungi. Now we will discuss about the 3 stages of sexual reproduction, and they are pre-fertilization, fertilization, and post-fertilization. The name itself tells you that something is happening prior to fertilization, in the process of fertilization, and after the process of fertilization gets over, right? So what happens, let's see. In pre-fertilization, gamete formation and transfer of gametes will take place by process of meiosis. During the process of fertilization, what happens? Once the transfer of gametes take place, these gametes will fuse to form the zygote, and this process is known as fertilization or syngamy, which can either be internal or external, that is internal fertilization or external fertilization. Fine. Now once the fusion takes place and zygote formation is done, what happens next? In post fertilization, zygote formation, after that mitotic division of zygote and development of embryo will take place, followed by cell differentiation and modification according to the organism and its life cycle. So these 3 stages are common to all living organisms who undergo reproduction by using sexual reproduction. Fine. Let's see the significance of sexual reproduction. It helps to bring about new combination of characters in offsprings. Such new variations help the survival of the species in changing environments. This we have already discussed in DNA replication and importance of variation. That is our first video. Fine. It creates genetic diversity within a species which leads to evolutionary advancements. So these 2 points are discussed in detail in the previous video. Fine. Now here we are going to discuss 2 advantages of sexual reproduction over asexual reproduction. This question is frequently asked in the form of comparison also, or characteristics or so on. So please go through it. It is more advanced than asexual reproduction as it involves the fusion of 2 different gametes. This leads to genetic variation in which organ helps the organisms to evolve and survive new changes. Asexual reproduction involves the production of clones. You know the meaning of clone, that is the identical daughter cells, right? And hence it promotes a very little or almost negligible variations in offspring. So this first point tells you the differences in between sexual and asexual reproduction on the basis of evolution of variations, which are found in more quantity in sexual reproduction because here the fusion of gametes take place because of the involvement of 2 parents, right? Whereas in case of asexual reproduction, there is a very little or almost negligible chance of getting variations because only single parent is involved in this process. Fine. Sexual reproduction promotes variations among the offsprings of the same parents and provides opportunities for new combination of characters, thus playing an important role in the origin of new species. So this question can be asked that sexual reproduction plays a major role in the origin of new species. So here you have to describe about the variations and evolution. These are the 2 points which you have to elaborate depending on the weightage of the question. Okay. Whereas in case of asexual reproduction, very little variations occur over generations. Hence, it has a very little significance for evolution of species. So these 2 points I have given you in very brief, but if it is asked for 3 mark, then you have to elaborate it. Okay. Here I have given you few terms which are related to reproduction. Please go through it, learn them and write it for 3 times. Fine. Let us move further. So here children, I have given you the life cycle of a plant. Let us begin with seeds. We know that seeds hold a tiny plant with leaves, stem and root parts and even the food supply, right? Why do they need to keep the food supply? Till the entire plant is grown along with leaves. Till that time, this particular plant will need some energy, and due to that reason food supply is already there in the cotyledon, right? Now when these seeds are sown in the soil, through the process of germination, entire plant will be grown on its own. When the leaves are seen, these leaves will start producing food for the plant. The plants will keep on growing. At the end, the flower formation, right, which are very important in making seeds, and through the process of pollination, the entire reproduction cycle will go on, and about that we are going to discuss further. Fine, this is only for your reference, you don't have to remember this. Fine. Now let us start with sexual reproduction in plants. The main parts of flower are receptacle, sepals, petals, stamen and carpel. The base of the flower, to which all the parts of the flower are attached, is called receptacle. Flowers are the reproductive part of a plant. They are not only involved in reproduction but also a source of food for other living organisms. That is, I am talking about nectar, right? They are rich source of nectar. Flowers can either be complete or incomplete. A complete flower is the one that consists of sepals, petals, stamens and pistil. That is carpel, okay? On the contrary, an incomplete flower is the one that lacks one or more structures. So the name itself tells complete means all the parts are present, incomplete means some of the part is missing. Fine. A complete flower consists of two different parts, that is vegetative part and the reproductive part. So here we are going to discuss about vegetative part of a flower and reproductive part of a flower in detail. The following are the vegetative parts of a flower. First we'll start with petals, which is a bright colored part that attracts bees, insects and birds. Color of petals varies from plant to plant. Some are bright, some are pale colored. Thus, petals help us to differentiate one flower from another. So what is the function of petal? It attracts bees, insects and birds for the process of pollination, right? Sepals. Sepal is the green colored part beneath the petals to protect rising buds. So this is the function of sepal. Some flowers have fused petals, sepals, while a few have separated petals and sepals. It's fine, but you have to remember the function. Okay. Now let us start with reproductive parts of a flower. In different plants, the number of petals, sepals, stamen and pistil, that is carpel, can vary. The presence of these parts differentiates the flower into complete or incomplete. Apart from these parts, a flower includes reproductive parts, stamen and pistil. A flower may have only female parts, only male parts or both, and on that basis the flower can be unisexual or bisexual. Unisexual means either of the female or male parts are present, and bisexual means both female and male parts are present in a single flower. Okay. Reproductive parts of flower, we are going to discuss in detail about that. Stamen. Now the name itself is having men, men, so obviously it is related to the male reproductive part of the flower. Okay, this is the male reproductive organ and is also known as androecium. You will hear this word androecium and gynoecium very frequently. So if it is androecium, then it is stamen, that is the male reproductive organ, which consists of two parts, anther and filaments. Anther is a yellowish sac-like structure involved in producing and storing the pollens. If you have seen hibiscus, if you touch hibiscus or if you observe hibiscus, on the top you will be able to see a very tiny yellow color, circular disc like structure, right? So they are the pollens. Fine. The filament is a slender thread-like structure which functions by supporting the anther. So what is the function of filament? It supports the anther. What is the function of anther? It is involved in the production and storing of the pollens. Fine. Pistil or carpel. It is the innermost part and the female reproductive organ of a flower that comprises three parts: stigma, style and ovary, which is collectively known as the pistil. Fine. Stigma. It is the topmost sticky part or receptive tip of carpel in the gynoecium of a flower. Gynoecium, gynecologist, right? That is related to females. Gynecologist is the doctor who examines the females, right? So gynoecium is related to the female reproductive part, and androecium is related to the male reproductive part. Fine. So what is the function of stigma? It is the topmost sticky part or receptive tip of carpels in the gynoecium of a flower which receives pollens. Okay. Style. It is the long tube-like slender stalk that connects stigma and the ovary. So it is a kind of bridge which will connect stigma with the ovary. Fine. An ovary, we know it is the ductless reproductive gland which holds a lot of ovules, that is the egg cell, right? It is the part of the plant where the seed formation takes place. Fine. So all these parts you have to learn, you have to write it down, function of each part. Please remember everything. Okay. This is the diagram you have to learn how to draw, and the pollens which I was talking about. Here in the figure you can see that the bean shaped reddish types where anther is written, right? So if you will touch that part, you will be able to find some powdery substance. They are nothing but they are the pollens, right? In the center you can see stigma, style and ovary, that is the female reproductive parts are located within the, or I can say in the center of the flower, right, surrounding the male reproductive part. So here which type of flower I have shown you? It is a bisexual flower. Why? Because both male and female reproductive parts are present in this flower. Okay, so please go through it. You can refer to this diagram, you can refer to the diagram which is given in your textbook also, whatever is convenient to you, but you have to learn how to draw. Fine. And this is the longitudinal section of a flower. Fine. Now we will discuss about pollination in plants. About this you have already learned in your previous standards also. It occurs when pollen grains from the male part of one flower, that is anther, are transferred to the female part, stigma, of another flower or same flower also. Okay. Although all flowering plants rely on pollination for reproduction, there is a variation in how plants pollinate. Okay. It is important because it leads to the production of fruits we can eat and seeds that will create more plants. So this is the importance of pollination. Fine. We will discuss about the types of pollination now. Two types of pollination. We know self-pollination and cross-pollination. Self means which is happening in the same flower or the flower of the same plant. Cross-pollination means the pollination which is happening in two different flowers of two different plants. Okay. It is the more basic type of pollination because it only involves one flower. This type of pollination occurs when pollen grains from the anther fall directly onto the stigma of the same flower of the same plant or two flowers of the same plant. Are you getting my point? So self-pollination is occurring in the same flower of the same plant or two different flowers of the same plant. Here the plant is not being changed. Okay. Whereas in case of cross pollination, it is a more complex type of pollination which involves the transfer of pollens from the anther of one flower to the stigma of a different flower. Fine. Now agents of pollination. Now whatever things are happening, that is when these pollens are getting transferred, they need some mediators, and these mediators which help in the process of pollination, they are known as pollinators. So during pollination, pollen or plant sperm is taken from the stamen to stigma. This process requires at least one agent of pollination to move the pollen between male and female flowers, and this agent is known as a pollinator. Here are the agents I have given you, which are abiotic agents and biotic agents. Abiotic means non-living and biotic means of course living. These are the examples you have to remember. The biotic abiotic agents of pollination, it can be asked. Fine. Fertilization in plants. Now we will discuss that once the pollination process is over, then only the process of fertilization will get started. It will never happen that without pollination the fertilization is possible. Why? Because in fertilization two gametes are needed, and here in case of plants, if pollination will not take place, then pollen from stamen to stigma will not be transferred. Fine. So it is the process of fusion of male and female gametes. For the fusion of male and female gametes, pollen grains have to reach the surface of the stigma, which is called pollination, right? About that we have just now discussed. Pollen grains received by the stigma germinate and give rise to pollen tubes. Only one pollen tube finally reaches the embryo sac. Means once the pollen will get transferred from anther to stigma, then one tube-like structure will arise, which is known as pollen tube, and it will arise in the style of female reproductive system. Okay. This tube will have two male nuclei which migrate to the tip of the pollen tube at the time of fertilization. Usually the pollen tube enters the ovule through micropyle and discharges the two male gametes into its embryo sac. That is when these pollens are transferred and that pollen tube is formed, through that tube two male nuclei, that is two pollens, will enter that pollen tube at the time of fertilization, right? Usually this tube enters the ovule through micropyle and discharges the two male gametes into the embryo sac. One male nucleus approaches the egg and fuses with it to form a diploid zygote, which is the first fertilization, that is in the ovary. When this pollen tube enters ovary along with two male nuclei, that ovary is containing almost 6 to 7 ovules, that is egg cells. So when one male nuclei fuses with egg and form the diploid zygote, that is the first fertilization. Are you getting my point? And if the second male nuclei, the other male nuclei will also get fused with the polar nuclei which are present over there, then it is known as double fertilization. Are you getting what is fertilization and double fertilization? The other male nucleus reaches the secondary nucleus and fuses with it to form endosperm nucleus, which will be triploid. This is second fertilization in the embryo sac. Thus, double fertilization occurs in embryo sac, which is unique in flowering plants. Hope you have understood. I'll repeat it. Once the pollens are transferred, a pollen tube is formed. Through that tube, two male nuclei will travel and migrate to the ovary. This ovary is already containing egg cells. So one male nuclei will fuse with the egg and form a zygote, which is the first fertilization, and the other male nuclei which has also migrated, that will also get fused with the nucleus present in the ovary, and that leads to the second fertilization, and that is why it is known as double fertilization. Fine. It occurs when one male nucleus fertilizes or fuses with egg cell to form zygote cell, and other male nucleus fuses with two polar nuclei to cause triple fusion. As these two types of fertilizations take place at the same time in the ovule of the plant, it is known as double fertilization. Are you getting my point? Please go through these diagrams. The left one, which is given, that shows the germination, pollen germination in plants. This is extremely important from exam point of view. You have to learn how to draw, label everything, right? And you should know how to explain the entire process of fertilization in plants. Okay, to the right, the entire life cycle, that is the process of germination I have shown you, right? Germination I'm talking about, that is the pollen germination, right? It is not that germination about seeds what we discussed about. Okay, so please learn the diagram. You can learn the diagram which is given in your textbook also. Fine. Now once the fertilization is done, that is the fusion of gametes has taken place, what actually happens, what changes are found in the ovary? So we are going to discuss about that right now. Post fertilization is a series of events that takes place after fertilization to develop a seed from an ovule and a fruit from an ovary. Okay, as I said, in the ovary, many female cells, that is egg cells, are already present, but all the egg cells are not get fused, right? So whichever egg cells are not used, they are going to get converted into the seeds. Okay, after fertilization occurs, this is extremely important, you have to learn it. Okay, what actually happens after fertilization, or explain post fertilization in plants. So the zygote divides several times. How come zygote has formed? Through the fusion of male and female gametes, right? So it divides several times to form an embryo within the ovule. The process of development of embryo from the zygote is called embryogenesis. Each ovule develops a tough coat and gradually converted into a seed. Each seed contains a tiny undeveloped plant called an embryo. The ovaries surrounding the ovules develop into the fruit that contains one or more seeds, and the petals, sepals, stamen, style, stigma may shrivel and fall off. So in short, once the fusion is done, fertilization is over. After fertilization, zygote is formed. That zygote will get divided several times to form the embryo through the process of embryogenesis. This ovule, which is not fused, as I said, it will develop a tough coat and convert it into seed. Each seed contains the tiny undeveloped plant embryo, and this ovary with ovules will develop the fruit, which will be having one or more seeds, right? And what are these seeds? They are the unfused egg cells. Okay, and the rest of the parts of the flower may shrivel off. Okay, activity 8.7, please go through what is given in your textbook. Fine, this is the explanation and observation. Please go through it. It is extremely important because this you have observed at your home also, when your mama must have prepared sprouts, right? So that white color sprout which we see, that is radicle, which later on develops into the root, and after few days of radicle formation, another white structure comes out from the joint of seed, which is known as plumule, which later becomes greenish and develop into the shoot. So two cotyledons of the seed becomes distinguishable with the formation of radicle and plumule. This is the conclusion. It shows that the plant reproduces sexually to form seeds. This is the diagram. It is extremely important. In exam, sometimes it is asked to identify the parts. Okay, this same activity we will be doing in the school also, that is to identify the parts of the dicot plant, nothing else. Okay, this is the definition of germination. Please go through it and write the definition of germination for 3 times and learn it. Okay, and the diagram, that's it. Let us end our session with a positive thought, that is, it always seems impossible until it is done, which is told by Nelson Mandela. That is, whatever you want, you have to start with something, right? You can't simply sit and wait for anything to happen. You have to work harder for that, right? So that's all for today. Thank you. Have a good day.